All right, we are back. Dynasty Trades in 5. I'm Clay.
I'm Shane. I don't own enough Jamar Chase.
I am maybe SpongeBob, right? SpongeBob. This episode. I'm SpongeBob.
Hello, SpongeBob. Thanks for joining. So tonight we're talking about Joe Burrow. Obviously smashed to finish the year. He's got a ridiculous supporting cast around him. Hot name, probably hard to get, but what are we doing with him, guys? Buy-in?
Well, he's going to be hard to buy after the last 2 weeks. I mean, your recency
Yep.
bias, he's going to have the offseason as pretty much anybody that had him slash Chase slash Higgins, or a combination of the three, probably had a really good shot of winning your championship. But no, I think there's some things to maybe question with Burrow, like what is his true ultimate ceiling going forward? Right now, if you just look at his numbers for the whole season, including these last two games, I mean, he's QB9 in points per game. Now, he's definitely inside of that top tier of quarterbacks in Dynasty when you factor in like the longevity and you factor in, kind of already cementing his place. And I think he's given you the positional advantage on the bottom end this year, but I think you can probably milk that into his future value too. I mean, just his passing efficiency this year has been ridiculous. He leads the league in yards per attempt and completion percentage. So that when you just combine those two things, over a 70% completion percentage and the highest yards per attempt, like that usually means you're going to be able to put up numbers regardless of whether you can run. And he started to get his running back a little bit. I mean, he's over 100 yards for the year. But you've even seen it the last month or so. Like he's moving a lot better than he did early in the year. Early in the year, I mean, I was even critical of Burrow. Like, I mean, this guy looks like he can't move anymore. Like we're talking less than 10 yards a game rushing, which is not going to give you a whole lot extra. But if he can just give you, maybe 200 plus yards rushing in a year, that's still 20 extra points. Plus an efficient offense. So you want a guy that's going to be in the red zone more, yep, get a couple quarterback sneak touchdowns, run a draw in from the, inside the 5. So, I think the question is, what is his ceiling? We'll talk about that a little bit when you get to his value. But, I mean, he's probably a cemented top 6 or 7 dynasty quarterback, maybe even higher. And I think the comparison I've given is I think he's probably this new age version of like Drew Brees, where the offense is going to run through him. It's not going to be, well, next year, you know what? We want to lower Joe Burrow's attempts.
Nope.
Like, we don't want him to pass a lot. I think it's just going to be like Drew Brees just lived continuously on 600 plus attempts a year. I think that's going to be the design for Burrow. And I think he's always going to be a guy you're going to want to surround with a lot of weapons going forward.
Where you at, Shane?
Yeah, what Scott said. I mean, yeah, there's really not much to add to that, right? The only thing is, I don't know how much his value increased from last year because we already thought he was, a top 8 quarterback at worst. So maybe now he's top 6. So if you didn't already have him on your roster, he's going to be too expensive to acquire. I know I would love to move some Trevor Lawrence for him if anyone would like to take that, but no one's going to do that. There's really not many moves I think you're going to be able to pull off for. Like you're not going to be able to move. Maybe you could. I don't think you could. Mac Jones in a first for him, but again, that's we've talked about like elite quarterbacks. He's in that tier now where I don't want to pivot down to an okay guy in a pick.
So which side would you take here? Would you take Burrow or Trevor Lawrence in the 108?
Yeah, that's a good one. I think that's that's probably the target type of deal that you might want to even try to get a higher pick. I think I'd probably lean Burrow, but we were just debating these two straight up before the season, who was more valuable. And then of course their seasons went in polar opposite directions. So I think that's a great process deal. If you really believe in Trevor Lawrence and you think Joe Burrow's capped out at QB 4 or 5 or wherever he's going to stand, then I actually think that's a pretty smart deal if you want to make that big bet.
Yeah, I don't look. I want to believe in Lawrence because I put a lot of capital into him. But if I could cash out at that, I'm probably going to go ahead and do that. There was just too many red flags there.
Would you rather have Burrow in the 111 in 2022 or Dak in a 23 first?
Dak in the 23 first.
Yeah, I was just going to mention before, I think Burrow and Dak are very similar. And
Right. So I tried to tweak it a little bit because I agree. I mean, they're
well, and I think I would
unequal.
actually take Burrow because I mean I know Shane kind of poo-pooed on the 8.9 yards per attempt, but seeing that efficiency, it is a very good sign for him giving you a floor going forward. I do think Dak might be more closer to his ceiling, especially with Gallup potentially gone now, most likely gone. I don't think Dallas doesn't want to run the same offense as the Bengals. I think the Bengals are fine doing what they've done the last month or so. I don't think that's Dallas's plan to play like that. They can if they have to, but I don't think they necessarily want to do, what they did with Dak last year. If you really wanted to sell high on Burrow, what I would be targeting would be a 2-for-1 involving Russell Wilson, and I think you can try to get a really strong 2-for-1.
Okay, well, what's the other
You're
one? Is it a good
That's
quarterback?
it's a 101 in Russell Wilson type deal, or it's a wide receiver, top 15 receiver plus Russell Wilson.
Okay.
And that would honestly be my target, because I don't think you're going to be able to go to the Lamar Jackson owner or the Dak Prescott owner and say, okay, I want a first on top of one of those guys. I don't think the steam for Burrow is that strong yet, because I think people just see him as in the same tier. I mean, if I have Lamar Jackson, as much as I love Burrow, I'm not giving you a first to move Lamar
no.
plus a first for Burrow. I mean, is Burrow safer long term maybe to have a job in 10 years than Lamar Jackson? Probably, but who cares? I don't care about 10 years. You know what I mean? I care about the ceiling over the next 3 to 5 at most. I think Wilson is the guy. I mean, he could fall flat on his face, but I think he's the one player you can acquire. Aside, everyone wants Lance and Fields, but I think Clay mentioned it with Lawrence and then Wilson. Those are the two guys where you can say, I can get significant steam on top, and there's a world where I come out ahead in a year.
Well, you're gonna need to make sure that second player or second asset is really strong, though, because Russell Wilson, how do I say this nicely without angering people? He's not that good.
He's a QB5 in fantasy over the last 3 weeks. Interestingly enough,
last 3 weeks. All right. Well,
I'm just saying.
Was he even a QB1 this year? And every year, half the season, no less than 8 games, he's absolutely useless to you. So
QB13 on the season. So,
I'm going to be looking for any leagues where Scott might own Joe Burrow, and I am going to give him Russell Wilson and Kirk Cousins and cash out and grab me some Burrow.
No, this is like a DJ Moore and Russell Wilson for Joe Burrow type deal.
Mm-hmm.
Or that's the type of 2-for-1. It's an 80-60 for 100 type deal.